All right, I'll call to order this meeting of the Wabash Township Board. It is June 18th, 2024 at 7:02. Roll call.
Germany Harris, board secretary.
Present.
Is present.
Ian Pitlars, board president, is present, and David Tate, member, is absent. He has an emergency that he is dealing with. We've got Ed Ward and Angel Valentin here as well. All right, all rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item on the agenda is approving the previous board minutes. I took a look at them, very straightforward, nothing to add. So I move to approve the previous board minutes. Do I get a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes. Township update. Which one of you wants to go first?
You can have Ed go first.
Okay. Just some quick numbers. For as of today, our run totals are at 620. This time today, June 18th of last year, we were at 545. So we're up 75 calls over last year. That's pretty significant. Normally we fluctuate anywhere from 40 to 45 calls, just kind of up and down. So 75 is a pretty big jump for us. So been busy. Just some quick updates on some things. Last month we completed our interview process for our open firefighter position. We had 3 internal candidates that we interviewed. From those interviews, we extended a conditional offer of employment to firefighter Boone Munn. Boone's been with us for about 4 months as a volunteer, and he's done a great job. He went last Thursday for his physical and psych evaluation. We'll get those results back. Basically, his conditional offer of employment was contingent upon his passing all of that stuff. So we should have that his results back within the next week or so. The other 2 firefighters, which is firefighter Aaron Ping and Caden Cruz, they're currently volunteers with us as well. Their interviews went very well as well. But of course, we only had one full-time position to fill. We did offer both of them part-time positions, and they both accepted. Firefighter Ping is actually working today, helping cover shift. And Caden Cruz will be starting within the next few weeks, part-time, just based on his work schedule. The upstairs construction projects, the kitchen and lounge are almost complete. Everything's done except a couple small cosmetic things that the contractors have to come back and touch up and fix. But everything's in and done. They moved all the stuff they moved all the kitchen stuff in upstairs. And they're supposed to be here early next week to finish up those small cosmetic things. The contractors have moved back into the lounge room. There were 2 rooms in there that we didn't finish all the way out. We just didn't finish the walls, put doors on 2 of the rooms. They have moved back in there and they're finishing those rooms up. They actually started on Wednesday and they were just about finished up on Friday. So they're just waiting for they just got to put some trim up and paint the walls. So they're just about done with that as well. Not much of an update for you guys aren't already aware of, but we got all the purchase of the new engine completed. The thing that's been the slowdown at this point has just been getting the figuring out what the time's going to be for CI New Jersey to release the truck for us to be able to take delivery of it. Initially, the conversation was it would be closer to the end of the year, but after having talked to the chief out there, it looks like they'll be ready to release it by the beginning of July. So we're hoping to take delivery of it by mid-month. And have it in service shortly thereafter. We've got a few things that we need to do to it. We've got to get some stuff installed. We've got to get it re-lettered, some stuff like that. So that should go pretty quick. And the last thing I have kind of piggybacks off that, which is the next new apparatus in that process. So once we get that truck here, we get the truck done and in service, we're starting the new truck spec process for the next truck. It had been looking like it was gonna be about a 3-year delivery time on a new truck. Or at least that's what it was in April. Having talked to some of the manufacturers over the last couple of months, delivery times are starting to come down. Some of the manufacturers have opened new plants and things like that to try to speed up the process. So it's looking like it'll end up being around a 24-month lead time instead of a 36-month lead time. So we're hoping that time keeps coming down, but so hopefully it'll be much quicker than we had anticipated, but we'll see what happens. So that's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Any questions? On Hal?
All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. Just a quick note that you should be able to, on the drive, see the monthly budget reports. I've also been able to start uploading them more effectively. We got access to some of the stuff on the back end that we needed to be able to do the uploading of documents. And so we will be, up there, you would already have everything through May, if my recollection serves me right. So you'd be able to pull through all of the budget reports through May. Something of note is last year in May, we were at about $20,000 when it came to the Township Assistance Fund expenses. So the assistance that we were providing out to folks in the community. This year, we're at about $31,000. The good news is that that's mostly keeping pace with where we are at funding level. So we have funding initially a portion to be able to do for for $100,000. And so I think that we're just a little bit over the $100,000 pace, but in keeping, and looking through the month, it's being fairly consistent. So that's just something to note that we're paying attention to on our end. We've started working with the financial consultant. And so we just received some of the initial estimates from them regarding that. And so I wanted to pull that up if you'll give me here a second. Apologize, I'm still a little bit on vacation mode. So I'm a little bit slower on the And so we received the initial estimate of where we are when it comes to the upcoming year for local income tax monies. Those numbers are still preliminary because there will still be more calculations coming up in the future that, as county and the state update their data. But as far as the general fund, which is the one that is being funded by the local income tax, we are expecting next year to see about $479,000 incoming for that at this juncture, versus this year we received $315,000. That's just, as I think I've mentioned in the past, the local income tax is ratioed based on the levies that different municipalities have. And as our fire department levy has increased to be able to meet the need, we're also seeing an increase in the portion of the local income tax money that the general public in Tippecanoe County pays that comes to our municipality. So that's something that we'll start to see, and that we'll be able to have a little bit more flexibility in the general fund in the upcoming year. And so I expect that we'll have some conversations about that as we start going into the funding process. So I thought that that was important and of note. Long term, if we were to max out our firefighting fund levy, we would anticipate that that number would increase in today's dollars roughly to about 680 or $670,000 would be what we would have from that. Now, if you will allow me, I want to also make a quick presentation. Over the last couple of weeks in working by myself and also consulting with the financial consultant, I asked him to provide me some data so that I could visualize something for you guys here. regarding where we were when it came to the um, to the general fund and township assistance fund levies. So when we went through and did this, we were able to pull up all the information for all of the state. I'm pulling it up right now here. I'm using the hotspot and it's a little bit slower, so I apologize for my taking a little bit more time. I do present your screen. So when we went through and did the data on our state and as a percentile, so this is the maximum civil levy rate. And so as you guys will remember, the civil levy rate, this would be like the 0.10 would be 10 cents per $100 of assessed value. The 0.01 would be 1 cent per $100 of assessed value. We are at 0.026, that little X that you see on the graph. And so this is for all of the townships in the state. We are the 13th from the bottom when it comes to the amount of revenue of rate that we're seeing for our different municipalities compared to other municipalities in the state. When you compare us to municipalities that have half our certified net assessed value to twice our certified net assessed value, we rank dead last. So that's been, just wanted to illustrate first off, and that's something that we don't have an easy ability to increase because that's our maximum levy. It's based off of decisions that previous elected officials over the last 30, 40 years have made in this township. That's where we are today. So we don't currently have an easy method of being able to go out and try to increase that amount. What we are going to start working towards is, I think I've mentioned in the presentation, and this continues what I spoke in the presentation of what I saw for this year being some of our major issues. We want to try to see if we can start to have a conversation with state legislators about instituting a potential appeal process that would allow us to go, let's say that we're here at maximum civil levy. If you were to go to about the 25th percentile, or maybe even the, I guess, a little bit less than the 16th percentile, if all the municipalities were allowed to be able to, or all the townships were able to seek a levy increase to 1 cent per $100 of assessed value, that would be something that would be of huge benefit to the township. Right now, our general levy and township assistance levy only allow us to go to $77,000 or so, 73, excuse me. And so we are in that's something that long-term is a challenge for us, because right now we're able to receive local income tax monies, but that's because we have a substantial funding from the fire department. If at any point in the future, which will probably not be in our times as board members itself, we received a decrease in local income taxes because, for example, West Lafayette annexed, and as a result, they were taking on the bulk of fire protection. Then we would be in a difficult position to be able to fund the trustee's office, particularly the township assistance program, is of critical need, as you guys are all aware. So this is one of the pieces that I'm trying to work on, and I just wanted to kind of embody for you the data as to what we were looking to do. The other thing that we would be interested in doing, even though the 1% would be a huge benefit in of itself, we also would like to see if there's a process whereby townships that have seen X amount of population growth could potentially go to 2 cents or 2.5 cents per $100 of assessed value to meet the need that we are seeing that's increasing, right? So that's one of those things that we have been wanting to be able to focus on, and that we've been able to pull some data now to demonstrate just how far back we are from where we need it to be and where we need to be long term to be able to make the municipality sustainable, because we want to be able to do a good job. Lastly, we also wanted to highlight that we've had some positive conversations with elected officials regarding the public safety tax funding. We still don't know where that'll land for this year, but we are anticipating that we'll hear from the different municipalities in the coming weeks about possible schedules for when we will have a hearing, since there was a change in the law that now requires a hearing for those requests. So our municipality, our fire chief, myself, will be able to go and speak to the West Lafayette, the Lafayette City Councils, as well as the County Council, and talk about why the need is important and try to see if we can establish a process to be able to receive a share of the public safety tax dollars. So that's also one of those pieces that we are working on in the near, future. We also started this year. I hadn't had it happen while I was here, but we received a couple of complaints regarding thistle, Canada thistle particularly, which is one of the species that we are required to have a process for taken care of. We were able to work with the county. I received a note from one of the homeowners today where the county was able to take care of some of the Canada thistle that was on county property. So we've started to have some process for that, and we are also trying to work with our office to see what we can do to be a little bit more proactive in the future. And that'll actually be one of those pieces that's not currently funded, that I want to be able to include some amount of money in the upcoming budget to be able to better take care of that responsibility. Because we have the ability to, for example, with noxious weeds and other pieces, require that a landowner take care of it, and if they don't, then we do it, and then we bill them for them, and if not, we put a tax lien on their property. Now, most of those I think can get solved with simply the letter and the conversation, but we want to make sure that we're also being taking care of that responsibility, especially when we are reached out to by members of the public that are concerned about that. So that's something that we're starting to work on a little bit more seriously. It's one of our smaller responsibilities, but something that we're working towards right now. So, any questions for you guys? I don't have anything too big, although if you guys have any questions from the budget or the balance sheets at the end of any of the months, you are always able to ask me a question, and I can dig a little bit into that too.
I'll look at the budget before the next meeting. I didn't see it get uploaded before I left today, but I love the data. Great presentation of where we're at. This is a very creative way to show it, that I think is pretty compelling. I ask,
Yeah.
what are these other counties spending the money on? Where they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6x, 10x what we are. And this is just their general.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that townships will spend money on. Some of the more aggressive numbers are, and I can pull, let me get you here so that you can see. There are some that will be usual subjects when you try to pull data by rank. So let me just do this here by rank, Z to A, and then I'll do A to Z here. Allows us to be this one. Okay. So when we are looking at the highest rates, there are a lot of folks that are above the 10 cents, or placers in Allen County, Howard. It's a distribution, right? Elkhart, etc. Grant County has a couple of places up there. A common theme, and I'll do a little bit more research on that because I'm just beginning to try to make that argument. Part of a big chunk of it is that they spend more on township assistance. It's something that I take a lot more seriously. There's places that don't have quite as high a rate, but that have a significantly higher rate. Like, for example, North Township in Lake County, which was where Frank Mervan, who's now a congressman, was township trustee at. They've also done other stuff, including helping elderly folks with transit and whatnot. We've gotten some small grants that allow us to buy in and help people get transported through the MIH program when they're needing transit and whatnot, but we don't have anywhere near the ability to be able to do something like that. That's something that if there was at some point a need, if we had a higher rate, we might be able to allocate money towards a purpose such as that. Other townships will also have significantly more funds towards cemetery preservation and maintenance, which is something that we do not have. We're always playing constant catch up really with our cemeteries. We had the cemetery that got damaged, and which, by the way, the fence got hit again. And so we've actually tried to reach out to the company, and the company went out of business. So Amy was working on getting additional quotes from other agencies or other companies to be able to do the repairs for that facility. So that's not yet completed, but is in the process of. So just everyday stuff. But we also have historic cemeteries that we're not able to maintain. I know that's part of the conversation why I've indicated in a previous meeting that we're interested in potentially working with a nonprofit to be able to take care of Sand Hill Cemetery. Because that's, sorry, did I say that wrong? Sand Ridge Cemetery, excuse me. Ed looked at me funny. Sand Ridge Cemetery. It's Vacation Head. It's a little bit slower today. And Sand Ridge Cemetery is a cemetery that is a very historic cemetery. It's a pioneer cemetery. We want to make sure that we're able to do the preservation both for the nature side of it as well as the headstones and whatnot that it deserves. And we're not able to do that right now because we don't have the level of funding necessary to properly maintain the cemeteries that are thrust upon us. We don't have any say on that.
Virtually no funding for that.
Exactly. We have virtually no funding for that, and it's not our top priority. So that would be something that if we had significantly more funding, we would be able to do a better job of taking care of those. But I really do envision that the biggest chunk of it would be township assistance. Right now we are still basically receiving a request, but in a sort of word of mouth type of situation. It's just the folks that have applied or been made aware by an agency that we exist that have come and applied to us. We don't have a strong application process. We're developing it, but we don't have the type of relationships with folks in the community that allow someone that sees a need to potentially consider coming to us. I suspect that we probably only see 10% of the need of folks coming into our office that are actually needing it. So we need to be a little bit stronger for that. But we also, and it's a struggle that myself and other township trustees face, is you have to balance the need to communicate with folks that you're available with the fact that you don't have endless amounts of money. So you end up kind of keeping it quiet, and whoever shows up, that's who you're assisting. And I don't think that that's a fair way to do stuff in our community, especially as rent is continuously going up in pricing and utilities, etc. I think that we need to be a little bit more proactive. We see other places like Center Township, which has been actually very well run by folks on the other side of the aisle, on the Republican side. And they have very strong connections with the community. They've invested in being able to serve the community, and they're locally based, serving the community, the folks there, and they're doing a fantastic job. And they're able to go out and reach out to folks because they have that level of funding, which we do not. So it's something that I'm working to that we would like to get to. So
okay. Yeah, I mean, right now there's no point in doing outreach if you can't afford to help everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
Okay, no, that's good. I'd be curious if we come with requests to do that. I would be curious to see what some of these a little bit more specifics on what these guys are spending it on. I don't know if some of the really high ones is that because they have a parks department, because I thought some of them might.
Some of them would, yes. I think it's still very rare. I know, for example, that Fairfield theoretically has a parks fund, but they don't administer any parks or anything. And all of that just comes out of the same fund. I don't know if historically at some point Fairfield Township had something of that sort. I'm personally not aware of it, but that doesn't mean that they didn't. But even Fairfield is 1.5 cents or just under 2 cents. And so they're also pinched hard too. So, but even for us, just that small increase would be such a boon because we're so far behind. I know that we won't be able to solve everything, but I want us to set us up in a better position for the future, in a place that at least feels like a little bit more breathing room to be able to serve the need in the community. So, but yeah, I can definitely try to do a little bit more research on that for you guys so that you can better see what other townships spend money on when it comes to those general levy funds or civil levy funds to make a better
Emergency, just
case for you guys. And
go after the rate, then that's something I want to know.
Yeah, and that's something at the last. So that's a good question, Ian.
Okay. Any questions, John?
He
All right.
said that very nicely about how he presented all this data, but if you look through that data, it's nauseating. Absolutely nauseating.
Oh, it's tiny.
Anybody that looks at it and thinks it's okay should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it a couple of times, these visualizations, is like the funding was just, I mean, they were just being choked out here for decades.
Yeah. It's no different than the fire.
I don't know, he's out a little bit, it's going, that signal's going a long way. All right, any,
Sorry
public,
about that.
before we move on
Should be back
to
now.
new business?
I have a lot of questions.
Yes,
So I asked last time, what isn't being done? How many people have been turned away?
on how can you?
Because I keep hearing we need more money to give more money away, and if you're gonna come take my money, how many people are you turning down?
On how could you hear that?
What was the question?
How many people have you turned down for assistance?
Percentage of applicants
We're coming through real spotty, you wanna kill your video, that might help.
who we turned down? I'll answer as I heard it, or as I think I heard it. Uh,
Give him a second.
Did go away.
I don't know. I also don't have the reports on this specific item, so I don't know how to answer it.
number of folks are recurring, and what number?
Whoa, okay, there he is, hello. You went
Can you hear
completely out, quite a while.
Yes. It got disconnected from my phone. I apologize. I think I heard the question be what percentage of applicants get rejected? What percentage of applicants come back for assistance? Is that the question?
How many are we turning away due to lack of funding? If I may.
So the question about how many folks we're turning away is due to lack of funding itself is probably, I would probably say 5% of people, because we would potentially be a little bit more lenient with them if we had more funding available. But the real answer, like I mentioned earlier, was that we're not advertising. So we're not at a point yet
What's the
where we're
problem
having
with
to.
I mean, like, what's the
we're
problem
not-
with that?
That we're not letting people know that this is a service that's being provided in the community.
But
So
the
at
ones
least my
who
philosophy
find
is
it is, the ones who need it find it.
that's I understand that approach. It's just not the approach that we bring to the table when it comes to how services are provided, right? Like when you go to, for example, the fire department, we communicate what the services that are available to folks in the community are. The police department communicates what services are available to the community. It is unfortunate when you have a unit of government that is there, such as the township, and it's already collecting money from taxpayers, and you're not able to share or even communicate what those services are. Because if you did, the folks that would need those services that you're advertising as being available would not be able to be served by our office. And so that's something that we don't see as being a good use of a good way to administer our office. So that's something that we would like to change. And I know that there are different perspectives on it, but that would be I believe how I think that our office should be run. And I think that's something that you see again in other townships like Center Township and in Clinton County being run by or very successfully by Republican administration that's been able to go out and talk with their neighbors and talk with folks in the community and make sure that those that are in need are able to go through, get their information reviewed and validated, and then be able to receive assistance if they meet the standards that the township has set. And I think that that's a much more effective and fair method. You know, we, for example, have an issue where because we don't have any communications, you know, even when there are folks that are here that have moved into our community, let's say that there's somebody that moved into our community and is not aware of the township system because they didn't live in Indiana prior to moving into our community and they fall on hard times. They don't know that this is a place that they need to start to go to for assistance. And that's something that's very common in our township because we're a township that's university centered, right? So we have a higher number of folks that are not originally from our community or even from our state. So that's something that's important that we are able to do that job well. So that's kind of what I was referring to there. So.
Yeah, I think this boils down to a philosophical difference.
Pretty big
This is-
one.
In my mind, the goal of government service is to prevent much worse things from happening further down the road. And so if we've got people who are going to be foreclosed upon and evicted, there's a lot of messiness that comes with that, both for the owner of the property and for the people involved. And if we can prevent that,
And having gone through that, I had to deal with it on my own. But having over the last 2 years, my mortgage gone up $75 a month. And now we're gonna come take more money to give to other people?
Your mortgage went up $75 per month.
Yes.
not from us.
So, I mean, everything's going up. And the reason people choose where they live is based on low tax rates. It's based on keeping more money in their pockets. It's
Yep.
based on, and I mean, I live in Tippecanoe County, so I get other counties do things differently. I don't care because I choose to live in Tippecanoe County. When I
Well,
choose to move, I will make that choice based on what they do in their county.
So,
And that's fair, but as elected officials in our community, this is what we have to weigh up is how the voters that elected us, how do they believe that we should be doing this job and what services we should be providing, what the intention of having a township government is. And that's something that for us is really important. And I understand that that's a philosophical difference, but we're going to seek, even when there are different points of views, we're going to seek to do what's best for the community and continue moving forward in a way that serves all of our constituents. And that involves some compromises and changes.
that's a budgetary discussion when we get to it, but we would need money to even consider doing it, right? So that would be during the budgetary process, which would be a couple months from now. Then that would be when we would discuss particulars of that, and we would be careful about that. So, and to the point I wanted to make is, Ed, how many firefighters have we hired since this administration started versus how many we had?
10 total, is that right on how?
Are we
Yeah, we
3x
were-
the staff that we had roughly?
Yeah.
Since Jan,
So we managed to get 3x the firefighting staff for, I think, $5 to $6. Is it per month? On an
it
average
was a little
home?
bit less than that, but yeah.
Yeah, so like $5 a month on an average home, we're tripling our firefighting staff. And, when we have new multi-billion-dollar facilities coming in that are going to require lots of additional workload on the firefighters, that's gonna be pretty important. And that's not a lot of money, so we do try to be as effective with that money as we can. I do believe
absolutely.
in spending government money to do good in the community, but I also don't believe in wasting it.
Exactly.
I think it's my job to be a good steward of that money. And so far, I think the proof is in the pudding. We've spent pretty efficiently so far to get the most bang out of that buck. And if we do so with township assistance, we're gonna be doing it with a mind towards that as well. So, because I understand your concern. And I definitely do not I'm not gonna spend more money to spend more money, right? We're gonna spend more money if there is a good reason to do so. And we can show that that's going to have a positive impact on the community.
Okay, so you said 5% are turned away, 5% of how many? Because 5% of 100 is different than 5% of 10.
So we probably have on average over the course of a year, last year we had about 130, I don't have the number right in front of me. I know that I told you guys in the last meeting, so I can get you that specific number. But I believe that last year we had about 130 applicants of assistance or whatnot. And so I know that as the year goes by, there are situations that would be a closed decision where you decide that you're not able to provide assistance simply because you don't have that funding, and in theory, like the honest answer to that question is you're not supposed to look at that at all. You're supposed to go into debt and become a distressed municipality if somebody that requires assistance and meets the standard comes into the office. But like the honest fact of it is that it comes with a lot of difficulties for the municipality and the staff when you become a distressed municipality, because then it requires a lot more work. It requires that you go out and take loans and that you're having additional work to be done to be able to seek more funding to be able to meet that need. And so, like the honest answer is that those people should have been helped. We decided not to, because the easier path was not to assist someone that would have qualified, because we are in such a precarious situation when it comes to the financial assistance side of funding that we couldn't meet that need without taking on additional workload, because we're very close to being able to essentially have a negative balance in that account. And you're not supposed to have that. Then you would have to go out and seek a loan, which the taxpayer would eventually pay regardless of, because those loans are get paid back by the taxpayer. But it's a much more complicated process. And so that's the honest answer of where we are of the folks that currently know that this process exists.
Anel, if I'm correct, are we using any of this data? I mean, would it be used in the future to get access to the township access funds for that reason? Is this something that we're continuously gathering in the hopes that
Yeah.
we can outreach for that
Yeah.
and get started on that?
So it's a multi-pronged approach. Yeah. So what we would be, this wouldn't entail anything immediately. This would require legislation changing at the state level to be able to change how we administer, the amount of funding that we have to administer for civil levy purposes. One of those goals is to be able to work with the Indiana Township Association. They're a smaller entity when it comes to the lobbyist groups that show up at the State House. They're, very small in comparison, relatively weak. But they've been able to occasionally be able to get some changes done. Like, for example, last year when it came to the public safety tax request, there wasn't any, you submitted that request and that request didn't really have to see the light of day. And I guess that, if we weren't trying to build a positive relationship with other municipalities, we could have gone out and banged the drum real hard about the fact that they were ignoring that request. But that's not the way that you build a productive relationship. And so as the Indiana Township Association went through and made some changes, they were able to get legislation that requires that, not that requires that they provide the money if you request it, but that it requires a public hearing for those municipalities that requested the money to make their case. And so one possibility is working with the ITA. We will also be reaching out to our local state representatives and state senators to have conversations about where we are and what we see as a possible thing for the well-being of the community. Now, I do want to make a quick note to say that that we would be talking between 1 cent, where we are when it comes to 0.26 cents, for a house whose net assessed value is about 200, certified net assessed value is about $200,000 a year. That would be apologize, 0.26 cents, $100. Sorry, 0.0026. So right now you would be paying $5.2 a year for the Township Assistance Fund, for the Township Assistance Fund. And what we're having discussions about is making it so that in the long run, not even immediately, in the long run, we would be able to get potentially, 0.0026. And so that would be, $5 right now, and saying in the future that we would like to be able to get to $40 a year. So going from $5 to $40 a year is a conversation that we would want to get in the long run, if we were able to do something like that. So,
and that would be over a period of time, yeah? Or would we be talking about trying to snap it up?
Yeah.
I
we
would
wouldn't.
assume
I wouldn't.
spend that
It would be.
that
Yeah,
fast.
My opinion when it comes to public funding is that you don't collect everything that you can simply because you can. You build up to where you can do so sustainably. Because jumping, if we had chosen to jump all the way up immediately to the firefighting fund, it wouldn't change the fact that it takes time for us to be able to recruit firefighters and to be able to build up our staff and their training, etc. It's not about simply collecting money, it's about making good use of the money that we're collecting.
So we're talking roughly like $3 a month increase at the end of a process, a ramp up process, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
Something like that, yeah.
that's not nothing, but if we have good reasons, it's also not.
Yeah. And I don't imagine that we immediately go for the max. We probably wouldn't go for the max in quite a while. We just want to be able to make it so that our municipality can react to the changes in our community that are.
That was the one that brought us to what, the 25th percentile?
The 1% would have brought us to close to the 50th percentile of 52nd percentile of similar municipalities, and it would bring us to the 40th percentile of all municipalities. But the 1 cent, which is the one that and the 1 cent that we're hoping to be able to at least get the minimum, which would be half of that amount that I set per year, would put us in the 15th percentile overall and in the 25th percentile for similar municipalities. So yeah, so I was right about the 1 cent. I said 2 cents was the number I based that off. So
okay, and that's much less money, and that would be, yeah, the stuff we're talking about is not nearly that expensive.
All of those
Yeah.
numbers you just showed up there are all based on that. Don't tell people this service exists.
Yes,
That's how it was when I started here. You just don't talk about it. If somebody asks, you find other things, don't help them if you cannot help them. Look for reasons not to help them. Don't talk about it. Make sure you don't share with the trailer parks or the apartment complexes.
which is it's a weird thing to pay someone to do.
That's, yes, but this is what got us where we're at. That's why this has continued for as long as it's continued. It's this, don't talk about it, just avoid it all until those people fall on those hard times and need help, and all of a sudden they're banging on the door wanting help.
Yeah.
It's-
Well, or they have to go to the state or the feds, but the way Indiana runs, which is super weird and bizarre, but it's the way it is they're very tight with the purse at the state level, and there's not a lot of programs, and they shunt a lot of that work off onto the townships, but then you've got townships that can't, like, nobody knows about that unless you were born here, and even then, maybe not. So it's just a weird situation. Sir, I think you've wanted to say a few things.
Well, I have two, I have two separate points, but I can tell you right now, I moved here 3 years ago, New Jersey, okay? The philosophy that you guys had started out about 70 years ago. And that's why people are now leaving the state in droves, okay? It is, because it's slippery slope.
Yeah.
Right? Because it never stops. My real estate taxes on a house in the middle of nowhere, I lived in the country, 82 square miles of watershed. I had a well, I had a septic, okay, and I had a house. And when I left 3 years ago, I was at 14 grand a year. When I moved there 37 years before, it was something like 2,500. This is what I'm worried about, okay? Because this is what happens. And you're talking about, there's no, that, communication, we have to communicate with people that need, okay? I'm someone that worked in the inner city. I worked with inner city kids. I was executive director, program director, education director, the Boys and Girls Club of Passaic, New Jersey. Part of the inner city. Okay, worked there for many years. Okay, I contributed to charities. Okay, very much involved in those, philanthropic type of person. Okay, but you can't drive out the people that pay the bills. And it sounds like, yeah, it's just a few pennies here. I've heard this whole story before, right? So I've heard this story. But you're talking about communication. You're not communicating with the regular everyday taxpayers. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about, was the website.
We know the
Right,
website's
now-
been a problem. It should be fixed
All I
now.
gotta say is, Ann Hill promised on October 6th, 2022, that to restore trust in the community with what has happened with the past trustee, okay, that this was the way to do it. And then I go on last week, there's nothing there, not even a meeting was posted. Not the time or date was posted.
We know, yep.
Yeah,
we
I
are.
know, but. You know,
So it
that's like ridiculous.
And
And then you were talking about faith in the community, all right? I don't have faith when I find out. I walk in here tonight and Jeremy is the third board member. I go on the website, I see that the second board member who replaced the first board member who was elected and resigned a half hour via Facebook that they were moving, okay, which I really feel was absolutely unethical and a disgrace that did not come out before the election because that person knew. And if anybody else knew and I ever find out, I'm gonna tell you something, it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good. Because you wanna restore trust in the community, use the website,
yes,
okay?
So
Please.
just to-
I am 1000% with you on the website. The website has been in an unacceptable state for way too long. On
You make
health,
a promise,
is there-
keep the promise in health, that's all, keep the promise. That should have been the first thing that was done.
is there
First
anything
thing
remaining
it
in our
was.
way for getting this stuff done on the website on health? Or are we good now?
No, I want to get back.
Come on, man. While we wait for him, I'll say I've been
Uh,
training myself on the website a little bit, but I've wanted to fire those people for a
In-
while. And
Fire
I
'em!
just don't have the
I'm
authority.
from Jersey,
Yeah.
man.
I have the Germany on there, like no.
Would have fired him a year ago.
So okay, so I've got back on I got back on here. So apologize. It's just not the best internet connection.
What's still left to do?
So what I was saying, so on the website, like the gentleman mentioned, I have to update the information for Germany to show up on there. And I understand the frustration about members coming in and resigning, but for those of us that have been here the entire time since we got appointed, there's nothing really that we can do. We're not the ones that are choosing to leave the board or whatnot. You know, Ian got appointed to the board. He ran for re-election, and he's been here since. I got appointed to the board as a member, and I served my time on the board until I got put in to fill the vacancy, and then as a trustee now. And you know, myself, Ian, and David, who have been here longer, can't do anything about that. And also, it's not Germany's fault either. Germany came onto the board, and when there was a vacancy, and my anticipation is that he'll serve through the entire time of the remainder of the term if he's able to do so.
And
I understand that frustration, but
information not being up to date. I think
Yeah.
is there access issues with the website that are still unresolved?
No,
So
so
you-
we were
everything
able
up-
to yeah. So when I think I emailed you guys last week before letting you know that the information had been uploaded and everything, we have to go through and create the events for future meetings to make sure that they're showing up there. But we were able to get a basic template so that we can now put the information there and have the meeting information loaded up there. And so we'll be filling out the rest of the calendar year to show up on there. And so that part has all been resolved. It's just I have to do the work. It's just myself that does that, right? So I do this part, I do the administration, I do a bunch of stuff, and I have, but I have to work on it. And so now that I have access to it, that'll be a priority. So.
Okay, so that's the website, because I agree, that's
Right.
simple.
I don't have
We
any
should
problem
do
with that, with the people that are like, I don't have any problem with Germany. I know I work with Germany. You know, I think Germany does a great job at the election board, okay? I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with you, Ann. I don't take anything personally. Okay? I just don't. That's not me. I don't take anything personally. I don't dislike people. I go out and have a beer with anybody. It doesn't matter. But I just don't want to see my grandchildren have to deal with, having moved out here for them, to deal with what we had to do. Well, we had to leave the state that we loved and grew up in, because there was no way that we could retire there. All right, and it was because of the same philosophy that you're talking about. Okay, that's frustrating.
Yeah, and I understand that, so if I can.
Sure, you can.
I think so I agree that there is an issue of blue state lockstep governance being horrifyingly mismanaged and overtaxed and underdelivered. I am not of that same mind, I will say. I am much, shall we say, frustratingly closer to the center than my party would probably like me to be. There is, however, a big difference between raising taxes in a place where you already have incredibly high taxes and raising taxes where you are at the
It's
bottom
how
of
it
the
starts,
barrel.
man.
I
I'm telling
understand.
you, believe me, I lived through it.
But
My
this-
parents lived through it.
The second thing is we are growing very rapidly. There are billions of dollars pouring into this community. All of these lots that are empty all around here, all already booked up for housing. It's gonna be exploding around here for a long time. And that's one of those things where we just have to be smart about it. We can't, because if we wait for the growth to happen and then we have a problem, you've got years of lag time to fix the problem. And I don't want to be in that position, because to me, that's a different kind of mismanagement. And the kind of management I would like to see is just good management, where we don't screw up on either account. And that's a tough needle to thread, but that's my perspective as the board president, and that's what I'm gonna try to do. That's what I can promise. I do understand what you're saying, and I take it very seriously. And it's gonna be a decision of case by case basis. What's the need? What do we project the need to be? Some of that's a little bit difficult because the growth is so fast. And
Well, wouldn't
it
that
looks
be a
like it's
good
only gonna
thing
be
then?
faster.
That would mean you would be bringing in a lot more tax money with the growth?
Yes, which is what Angel was saying at the beginning, is we're projected to bring in more money. And then the question becomes, well, that's happening because there are more people here, right? So you're going to have more need, and where does that balance fall? And do we have enough when we need it to serve the need of like thousands of houses a year going up? And industrial facilities going up, and all of these other things that we're not used to having around here. And making sure that we can meet the need. And obviously, this is primarily fire department. We're talking much bigger numbers on the fire department side than on the general fund side, but I do want to make sure we're managing the general fund side as well. We shouldn't have a cemetery where we have the friggin' fence knocked down every other week and it takes a month to fix it every time. It's ridiculous.
What I would like to see, kind of going towards what you're saying, is we are expecting explosion, in that size. I think we just need to maybe consider or start talking about getting some kind of foundation started, something to which we can show, is this enough? Is this not enough? Kind of grow, whether that be on the website with communication, giving people, kind of giving people that, showing them that door.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we have to roll it out and then do things that we can't do. That's not what I'm saying. I just want, is the township prepared, with this, future prospective growth? Is there kind of a plan? Is there anything? Because, based on what we see and when people are frustrated, there's not even a plan. There's not anything that somebody can concretely say, you know what, that could be better. Does that exist? I think that's where the frustration is. Well, we don't even have like the minimal. Is that something that people can actually see and make suggestions and be, excited to attend to make, suggestions on that?
Yeah, and I think we could do a slicker job of being transparent with the numbers so that people aren't guessing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's particularly hard on Hill. I think if we should email after this, and if I could get some data from you on a regular cadence, I could probably set something up.
Yeah,
And then
and so
we could
I know,
have budget
yeah.
versus actual rolling and have it on the website, and people could go and see a dashboard and click around and see what the numbers
So,
look like.
yeah, so I I think that we should be able to build something that's even more visually easy to do. But right now, which is probably more than other municipalities do, we do upload all of the budget information on there. And again, like I mentioned, we'd had a lag time issue because we didn't have access to it ourselves, and we had to submit everything to the vendor for them to update, and now we're able to do that. And so the information is live through now, and so you would be able to go through and click and see the budget reports for, let's see what year it starts at. So 2021, you'll be able to see a monthly budget report, um, and then go through and see it in 2022, 2023, and then 2024 through May, because once reconciliation is done, then that's something that we're uploading onto the site. So.
Okay, let's get together. I can help with some of that. That's what I do for a living. Let's maybe by next meeting, we could get something basic up and run.
Yeah.
And we could even have it updated live if things dump out to Google Docs. And it could just sit there and spin on it. I'll have to figure it out, but we can do something.
Yeah.
And then hopefully meet some of the transparency goals. Because I don't care if other people are worse than us. Like, we should be the best and the least funded at the same time if we can, is my opinion. That's why I like working at Purdue.
I just had one other issue, okay?
Please.
That was the issue with the homeowner that was, I'm probably not gonna say the name of this street right. Chanago Place for the possible.
Shenango.
Hmm?
Shenango, yes.
Yeah, all right, that's how it's pronounced, Shenango, okay. Yeah, and I just, from the homeowner, and I know there's always two sides to every story. Okay, on that. And so, you know, the homeowner posted on Nextdoor about it. I got back to her.
About what?
About the possible detrimental plants and noxious weeds on a possibly vacant property, non-owner property next door. Right. And yeah, right there, right where you're talking about. So I got back to her and said, a couple other people got back to her. They said to email here, and they said other things, and she wasn't getting anywhere. I don't know if she did not follow through. I don't know what she did. But in the long run, okay, I asked Eric Opignon, because I had met him a couple months before, if he knew basically what the procedure was. And within 15 minutes, he sent me, IC 15-16-8-1 from the State Board of Accounts. All right, which I sent to the home. All right, through private message. I think I might even sent it right in the Nextdoor app. I sent it to her. She was not getting response back. She told me from the trustee's office that she wasn't getting responses back, that she wasn't getting any answers, that really people said, well, we don't know what to do, we don't know how to help you. And then finally, Eric contacted David, who went over there, took charge of it. She also had some people from the county, as part of her property, I think on the back there where that drainage is probably county or county right away or something along those lines. And then David took care of it. All right. And like I said, I would like to hear the other side of the story from the township on what happens, because I know there's always two sides to every story.
I can tell you the other side of this, as it pertains to the township, is I was at her house and I walked that woods. David Tate had nothing to do with this process, other than he may have gone out there.
Yeah,
The county took 2 trees down.
That I know.
There was
She told me that
conversation
beforehand.
about who was taking the rest of it out.
Right.
Who owns that property? It all falls back to the county, the trust, or the township has got the ability to go in and clear that entire property, and put a tax lien on that property if they want to do that. The property was already under a tax lien.
My point was that according to this woman, this is my point, I understand all that. I read the code, I understand it inside and out now. My point was that from the office, she was not getting help to it. In other words, they didn't know specific, not that they didn't even know specifically what was supposed to be done. Not that they didn't know anything about, IC 15-16A-1. All right, that they just kind of said to her, and this is what she's saying, I don't know, I wasn't there, all right?
So if
You
I
know-
may for a second,
Yeah,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry, you were still, it was a little frozen. If I
What I
may
was-
for a second there,
I don't know what occurred within the office or what occurred contacting, but I just, if that was the case of what she's telling is true, that bothers me, and that at least the answer should be, we're gonna look into it. All right, we're going to.
I was standing
invest-
there when
For-
she was talking, that is exactly what was said.
Okay.
I was standing there when she was. in the
But then
office.
nobody got back to it.
Yeah, they did. I was
It
at
got
her house.
fixed, I know
was at
that.
her
I
house
know-
after that.
I know it's done.
I was
Okay.
there in her
All right,
garage talking to her for over an hour after that.
That's all I want to know.
Yeah.
That's why I said I know there's two sides to every story.
And on Helen, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump on top of it. What was said was, the whole conversation came about with the tax lien idea was. Amy in the trustee's office said, I know that's something we can do. I'm not exactly sure how we go about doing that because this administration hasn't had to do that yet. They had to make calls, other calls.
I even told her at one point in time, when she private messaged me, I said, you gotta give them time.
Sure.
Okay, and then she private messaged me just, I don't know, last week sometime, and said, oh, everything's fine now. I said, oh, great, thanks, congratulations. But I just wanted to make sure that it was being handled properly, that the staff knows that at least
Yeah, well, I can
Yeah,
assure you,
figure it out.
Eric's never been
Okay.
taxed on anything either. That's,
Yeah,
it's a whole
I-
process we had to go
I
through to
understand
figure
that.
that whole thing out.
I understand.
But I can promise you, at no point was she ever shut off and never responded to. Never. I mean, that's why.
so this is actually one of two cases that we've had. I think that you came in a little bit late to the meeting, sir. And during my initial trustees report, I indicated that we'd had a couple of situations arise where folks had reached out to the office regarding noxious weeds. I indicated, or I might have not indicated the full extent of it, but we had two incidents. That's one of the ones that you're referring to. There's another one that happened on Shenango facing the Morehouse Road side. Both of those properties, the issue was primarily within the county's jurisdiction. The drainage, the primary issue was the drainage in this house that you're referring to, not the exclusive piece of it, but the drainage was part of it, the major part of it that was being affected, and it was owned by the county. And so both of those areas actually have to be taken care of by the county highway department. Now, the trustee is able to go out and send a notice to the county, and within a couple of days, then do it ourselves and then charge the county for it. However, I just don't think that when it's the first time that something has come up with my administration, that the most productive thing to do in partnership with other agencies is to go out and be aggressive towards another municipality that we have to partner with and work with. So we had conversations with a couple of the commissioners, particularly Commissioner Murtaugh was particularly helpful. And they were working on some of those issues. And I know, for example, that today, at least for one of the two houses, the other one, the one on Shenango facing Morehouse, I received confirmation from the landowner that they got most of the work done today. It took a little longer than I would have liked it to, but but we were just working with the county on setting up a small process for a smaller part of the job, an important part of the job, but a smaller part of what we do. So I hear you and I understand the frustration, but we will continue to work on
I wasn't
doing
frustrated.
this process.
No, can I focus in on what I think the nugget of the problem here is? I think the question was, how long did she wait to hear back from us after sending us an email?
She didn't send an email to start with. She came in the office and was face to face with all of us
Okay,
that day.
so this sounds like he said, she said, and she done not told the truth.
Amy did far more.
She said she went to the office. She had the email. Somebody posted it on Nextdoor, and told her to send it. That's the first thing that someone posted on Nextdoor. saying,
Sure.
use the email and send an email to the trustee's office.
So she did not do that.
I guess not, if you guys didn't get an email.
Cause I didn't get an email. I'll tell you what.
No.
So she definitely
And-
didn't forward that.
And again, like Ed
Oh.
indicated, sir, that he went out to the property and spoke with the property owner and whatnot. And so
Okay.
I
Question
understand the
answered.
frustration, but
Cause I was
that's,
gonna say,
you
it'd be
know,
pretty surprising to me that Angel would go that long without answering an email. He's usually pretty good about it.
Up until this point, I thought it was handled correctly, so now
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like maybe we dicked up somewhere and something happened.
I have no idea. She's happy now,
She's
so.
got my personal
Let it
contact
ride.
number, so
Yeah.
I know how to fix it.
All right.
So.
As long as everybody's happy. Okay. That was a
and
lot
you
of-
guys will, and you guys will
Yes.
see and you guys will see a little bit more of that when we do the funding request for the next year, because we want to make sure that we're appropriating enough funds
Yeah.
that if we
actually
have to-
makes sense. Cause this is something we don't have funding
Well,
for. Is exactly
out of-
so.
put a tax lien on a property, that we have the funding to be able to do it in advance. So
Okay.
exactly.
Let me move us on to new business here, cause we're getting a little late. So we've only got one item of new business today, which is just an approval for the execution of a master governmental lease agreement. The People's State Bank wanted the board to sign off on something official, just giving Angel permission to sign into a lease agreement for the boomer pumper that we approved the spending on last meeting. So this is pretty straightforward. Angel, is there anything you want to add to this? I read through it. I didn't see anything that was remotely surprising.
Particular resolution, there wasn't anything particular. It was just an additional, it was based on the same thing that you guys already approved. It was just that that usually the bank will ask for a second follow-up resolution that has the specific wording that the bank attorney is comfortable with. And honestly, the biggest challenge was that in the original word, I said a purchase of an apparatus or a loan for an apparatus, but as we're going through the Indiana Bond Bank, it's technically a lease, even though we own the vehicle immediately after we get it. But it's technically a lease for legal purposes. So that was just the major difference that you'll see, that the word loan isn't used, it's lease.
Those
so
are the
they
only
just needed
questions. Who owns it if it's a lease, but it sounds like it immediately transfers to us. Okay, question answered.
Yes.
Anything from you, Jeremy?
No questions for me.
All right, I will call for a vote on resolution 2024-15.
Aye.
Get a second?
Up second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, resolution passes. All right, there you go, Angel. And I know you're on vacation, but whenever you send us the stuff, we'll sign it, enjoy your vacation though. I think we lost them again. All right, next meeting, August 20th.
Yeah.
That'll be our regular bi-week monthly.
Still here.
Angel, was I correct in saying that August 20th will be the beginning of our budget process for 2025? What a fun screen grab to be landed on.
Correct. It'll be the beginning of. Correct. It'll be our start for the budgetary process for 2025 budget year.
Okay. All right, then I will see you all then. Call to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See you in a few months. Have a good rest of your vacation, Angel.